In the earlier lecture, we discussed about the force of the west wind on the earth, in the deep sky, and on the surface of the sea. See, in what manner all the romantic poets describe the movement of the nature, and Wordsworth described the peaceful objects of nature, Shelley described the moving objects of nature, St. Coleridge finds supernatural element in the objects of nature, and John Keats described the beauty of nature. In the first stanza of the poem Ode to the West Wind, the poet says that the west wind is the force of the season. It is a life-giving force, breath of the autumn's being. West wind is just like an enchanter, just like a magician. As in the presence of the west wind, the leaves run away from one place to the another place. This activity is compared to the movement of the ghost in the presence of the magician. And the poet describes what manner the west wind takes away the wind seeds from one place to another. The poet also describes the movement of the east wind in the spring season. In the spring season, all the objects of nature are filled with color and beauty. And the poet compares this activity. And in the last of the first stanza, the poet says that the west wind is the destroyer and preserver. It destroys what is useless. It preserves what is useful. And the poet appeals to the west wind that it is powerful to bring change on the earth. That is why the poet appeals to hear his message. The poet laments, the poet weeps. In the second stanza, the poet describes the movement of the west wind in the deep sky. Here is a scientific imagery that the poet imagines there is a tree whose roots are in the ocean and branches are in the sky. We know that the clouds are formed by the vapor that is generated in the sea. As and when the west wind blows forcefully, it creates commotion, it creates disturbance in the deep sky. The clouds are taken from one place to another place, and it is a messenger of rain and lightning. The clouds are compared to the hair of a giant. And we say in this atmosphere, the west wind becomes the dirge of the dying year, the dirge of the dying day. When all the power is collected together, then it brings rain and lightning. The poet says that the west wind is powerful to bring change in the sky. That is why the poet appeals to the west wind to bring change in his life. In the third stanza, the poet describes the movement of the west wind over the surface of the Mediterranean Sea and on the Atlantic Sea. We know when on the surface of the Mediterranean Sea, the west wind blows slowly, peacefully. The poet imagines that the west wind is blowing slowly, and the sea imagines, she dreams the palaces and towers. Actually, it is relative. The palaces and buildings which are situated on the banks of the ocean, they are reflected in the water of the ocean. And the ocean is lulled by the joining streams. Next, the poet describes the movement of the west wind over the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. The force is greater. It divides the water of the ocean in two parts. The poet personifies this activity and says this undersea follies realizes the force of the west wind, and these follies shed their tears in the fear of the west wind. And the poet imagines that it is the west wind which is powerful to bring change even on the surface of the ocean. The poet appeals to the west wind to hear his message, to hear his suffering. The next fourth stanza expresses the poet's anguish against the circumstances. The poet was passing through the rough days of life, and the poet remembers his boyhood. See in what manner the fourth stanza begins. It is personal stanza, it is autobiographical in nature. See in what manner it is autobiographical. If I were a dead leaf, thou mightest bear. If I were a swift cloud to fly with thee, a wave to pant beneath thy power and share the impulse of thy strength. Only less free than thou, uncontrollable, if even I were as in my boyhood, could be the comrades of thy wanderings over heaven, then went to outstrip thy sky speed, scarce seemed a vision, I would never striven as thus with thee in prayer in my sore need, or lift me as a wave, as a leaf and cloud. I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed. A heavy weight of hours at chain and bound, one to like thee, tameless, swift and proud. The poet says, the poet laments, you can say, the poet weeps and says that if he had been a leaf, definitely he might have realized the power of the west wind, he might have realized the force of the west wind. If he might have been a cloud, definitely he might have fly in the deepest sky, in the company of the west in the deepest sky. If he had been a wave, definitely he might have realized the power of the west wind on the surface of the ocean and share the impulse of the strength. And the poet said definitely might have shared the source of inspiration, the source of strength by which the west wind is powerful to bring change on the earth, in the deepest sky, and on the surface of the sea. Less free than thou, O uncontrollable, the poet says the west wind is uncontrollable, it is wild in nature. The poet recalls his boyhood and says, if even I were in boyhood, could be the comrades of thy wanderings over heaven, and then went to outstrip thy sky speed, scarce seemed a vision. The poet recalls that if it had been the case of his boyhood of you, definitely he might have become the comrade, the companion of the wanderings of the west wind in the sky. He might have challenged the speed of the west wind. Now it seems a vision, now it seems a dream. The poet realizes that he is passing through the rough days of life. He could not become the companion of the wanderings of the west wind over the earth and the sky and over the surface of the ocean. That's why the poet rises and says that that he's helpless. Now it seems only a mere dream, not reality. And he declares, I would never have striven as thus with thee in prayer in my sore need. See, in what manner the poet laments. The poet weeps and cries that he might have never requested in such a way. And in this manner, he requested at that time. See the prayer of the poet to the west wind. The poet laments and prays, or lift me as a wave, a leaf and cloud, I fall upon the thorns of life. The poet realizes that he's passing through the rough days of life, that he's chained by the thorns of life. He's bleeding. That's why he appealed to the west wind to lift him as a wave, a leaf and cloud. That's why change can come into his life. The poet appeals for change. That's why he appeals to the west wind to take him away like a wave, like a leaf and cloud. As the west wind was capable to bring change in the life of a leaf, in a cloud and wave, in the same manner, the poet appeals to the west wind to bring change in his life as he was passing through the rough days of life. He's surrounded by the thorns of life. He realizes that he's bleeding, that he's passing through the rough days. And he further says that the heavy weight of ours have chained and bowed. The poet says that he's suppressed, that is chained, that is bound by the opposite hour, the opposite time. We know that at that time, Shelley lost the court case, his wife left him, and he was not happy at that time. That's why he says that the heavy weight of hours have chained, that is completely detained, completely changed. He could not come out from that circumstances. And the poet realized that he's bowed down by those circumstances, that the personal anguish of the poet against the circumstances. Now there is appeal of the poet to become like the west wind, one to like the tameless, uncontrollable, swift and proud. See the desire of the poet. They want to become aimless, swift and proud as the west wind is. That is the desire, deep-seated desire of the poet to face the circumstances of life. See, here is a comments. If I were a dead leaf, a lament, it is a lamentation of the poet. At the same time, we want to share the impulse of the strength. He wants to know this, the source of inspiration. The poet says that if it had been the case of his bio, definitely he might have challenged the speed of the west wind in the deepest sky. Now it seems only vision. It is not a reality. That's why he appeals to lift him as a wave, as a leaf and cloud. He's fallen into the thorns of life. He wants to become tameless, swift and proud. The last stanza is full of hopes, and the poet appeals for the future, good thing. The poet is optimistic. At the same time, the poet is a messenger of revolution. See in what manner the last stanza begins. Make me thy lyre as the forest is. What if my leaves are falling like its own, the tumblet of mighty harmonies? Will take from both a deep autumnal tone, sweet though in sadness, be thou spirit fierce, my spirit. Be thou me impetuous one. Drive my dead thoughts over the universe like withered leaves to quicken a new birth. And by the incantation of this verse, scatter as from an unextinguished earth. Ashes and spark, my words among mankind. Be through my lips to unawakened earth, the trumpet of a prophecy, O wind. A winter comes, can I speak you far behind? See the hope of the poet, the optimism of the poet. The poet realizes the rough days, the unnatural days, the opposite circumstances, and he appeals to the west wind to make him lyre, to make him its lyre. Even as the forest is, we know that when the west wind blows through the forest, it makes sound. In the same manner, the poet wants to become the lyre of the west wind. What if my leaves are falling like its own? We know that in the autumn season, the leaves fall from the tree. In the same manner, the poet says, my thoughts are falling, but they are full of music. And the mighty harmonies are from the deep and autumnal tone. They are very sweet and full of sadness. The poet says that his songs, his poetry is full of sadness. Be thou spirit, my spirit. See, in what manner the poet wants to share the spirit of the west wind, and he says, be thou spirit, far as my spirit. That the poet wants that the spirit of the west wind may come into the life of the poet, and the poet can become like the west wind. Impetuous one. Again the poet appeals to the west wind. Dry my dead thoughts over the universe like weathered leaves to quicken a new birth. See the appeal of the poet. The poet appeals to the west wind that as the west wind took away the dead leaves, it gave a new birth, new plants, new flowers. In the same manner, the poet wants from the west wind that its ideas may be scattered over the universe like the withered leaves. By the incantation of this verse, by the inspiration of this poem, he says that his idea is scattered as from the unextinguished earth, ashes and sparks. He says his ideas, his thoughts are like the sparks. But his mind is full of ideas. It is just like the unextinguished fireplace. It is burning. But it's covered by the ashes. But his thoughts are like the sparks full of inspiration. And the poet appeals to the west wind to spread his words among the mankind. Be through my lips to the unawakened earth. The poet wants to awake the sleeping earth. The poet appeals to the west wind to become the trumpet of his prophecy, of his forecast. What is that forecast? The poet appeals to the west wind that the west wind may become a trumpet of his prophecy. The poet appeals to the west wind. The poet gives a message of revolution. The poet gives a message of change. If winter comes, can a spring be far behind? It is a natural procedure that the uh, if winter is sure, if spring is sure, if bad days are there, spring of life is sure, if night is there, morning is sure, if darkness is sure, light is also sure. The poet gives an optimistic end and declares that if winter comes, if the coming of winter is sure, no one can stop the coming of the spring. If the coming of the evening is sure, no one can stop the coming of the morning. If darkness is sure, no one can stop the coming of the light. If unhappy days are there, definitely there will be good days. There will be days full of hope and optimism. In this manner, the poet describes the activities of the west wind. And the poet wants to share the source of inspiration from the west wind. And the poet wants to share the spirit of the west wind to his life. The poet appeals to the west wind to take away his dead ideas and says that his mind is just like the unextinguished fireplace. The poet appeals to the west wind that the west wind will become the trumpet of his prophecy. It's a message of optimism, message of revolution, and if winter comes, can spring far behind. It is an optimistic note. It is a revolutionary idea. We can say it is a prayer to the west wind. The poet appeals to the west wind to bring change in his life. Thanks.